Buenos dias, Gunners Collective TV. Back at it. You already know. Like a torta with some bad habits. Bye, bye. Let's get straight to the intro. Welcome back to the channel. And if you haven't already hit that like and subscribe button, make sure you go ahead and do that. Put your notification bell on all so that way you're directing the direction of the dope content that the gun stays kicking. And I appreciate your support, man. I'm very humbled by it. Thank you. So I woke up yesterday morning to all kinds of DMs. My phone was going boom, bing, bing, bida, boop, boop, boom, 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 right? My phone was blowing up. And I understand, man. Everyone seems to think, and I don't know why, right? That I'm the all-seeing eye, that I'm Third Eye Atlas, right? That I could tell you that I knew every single Norteno that ever walked the earth, that I know about them, I know who they are, I know where they're from. And to be totally honest with you and truthful, I don't, right? I don't. I think common sense would understand that. But I did get a lot of DMs from people saying, who is this guy? Do you know him? Have you watched this, right? And that was Spider de Salas, Salinas, right? And to be totally honest with you, no, I had not watched the video he did with Johnny Mitchell, The Connect. And usually, I'm going to be honest with you, when I see Johnny Mitchell's videos, I kind of bypass them. Not because I'm hating, not because they're not interesting, but because a lot of the times it seems like there's a whole level of bullshit going on there, right? It seems like Johnny Mitchell will take anyone off the streets, give them a title, put a clean, smooth, shot caller title on them and just run with it, right? You know, anyone could tell you they've been somewhere and they've done that. And it's kind of up to you to understand and vet that, to sit down with them and realize, man, this is some straight up bullshit. I remember when I did that with, someone who's now passed, and he kept telling me, hey, I got a story for you. Do I got a story for you? And I was like, all right. And I sat down with them. And I knew he was a verified individual, verified, rectified, certified. Like this guy had really been doing it from back in the days. He was part of an organization, a prison group. And so that I knew. And as I'm sitting here listening to the conversation, recording it, somewhere about a third of the way through, I realized, hey, I heard this story before. Didn't Sammy the Bull tell this motherfucking story, right? And it just seemed like bullshit kept compiling on bullshit. And the type of person I am, the way I was raised, my analytical ways of thinking, my awareness, I was like, bro, you just said this and you just piggybacked a lie on top of that. At the end of the day, man, I was unsure and I had to take this man for his word. So I ran with the story. But, you know, in the back of my mind, there was that inkling, that feeling like, man, this is some bullshit. This guy, and for whatever his reasons were, was trying to make himself, I guess, look better than and make the situation crazier than it actually was. Literally, man, I found out later on it was all fabricated and bullshit. And after listening to the story, I realized, okay, this guy, you can't bullshit a bullshitter, but he sure did, right? He bullshitted all of us. So in Johnny Mitchell's defense, sometimes because he hasn't lived that life, he was never a part of the gang life or the gang culture in and out of prison. He might not know. He might take a man at his word. And you know what? You never deny a man that. You always respect the man that treats you with respect. You judge people based on your interactions with them, right? So if this man is willing to go sit down, have a good conversation, tell you some stories for your channel, you can't do nothing but respect it and run with what he has to say. So the other day, Johnny Mitchell drops a video, Spider de Salas, a member of a prison organization. Now, I will tell you this, right? I do know of a Spider de Salas. That's a fact. I had heard of them, never had a chance to meet up with them, never had a chance to cross paths, but I had heard of them. In Salinas, it's a very notorious place, especially in the Norteno movement. It's headquarters. It's the motherland of the Norteno movement. You have a lot of guys that come out the womb in Salas, ready for guerra, right? You have a lot of guys that are generational, meaning that they're part of the business, meaning the Norteño movement, from the gate. A lot of guys have no choice. Their father, their grandfather were our part of the movement. You know, Salinas just happens to be the mecca of the Norteños and that prison organization. It just is what it is. It is the one city that was picked. It is a perfect and a leading example of what a Norteño is. So you have a lot of barrios, neighborhoods in Salinas that are very well recognized in and out of prison, like the Bahamas, Casitas, the Semsters, and the list the list can go on and on and on and on. And believe when I tell you, right? And I don't want to leave anyone out because everyone's gonna be like, what about my neighborhood? What about that neighborhood? Look, everybody in Salinas, North and the Southerners that are there, are with the business. Okay, Salinas just breeds business, period. And there's a lot of war that's happened there. And there's a lot of individuals that have had status from that city within the Norteño movement, right? Meaning that these guys are revered. They're looked at differently. It's always been like that with the Norteño gangs. Salas and San Fran, the Mission, and of course, San Jose have always been, and even Sacramento to some degree, right, have always been revered. And members that are coming from there, gangsters that are coming from there, are looked at a little bit different because they are laced by OGs of status, people that know the history, people that are well seasoned. Okay, so the name Spider de Salas does ring a bell. Does this particular individual right here that Johnny Mitchell interviewed ring a bell? No, but he shouldn't to me because I never seen him. We never crossed paths, but I have met OGs, a lot of real ones from Salas, like Spookio. Okay, like Shotgun. Okay, like Garfield. Okay, like Shorty Boy, Shorte, right? Frosty, and the list can go on and on and on and on. Night Owl. These guys right here that I met, Suave, from Salas, right, are pretty well known, and everyone knows what time it is with them. Okay, they are definitely in the history books or right on the cusp of it. So these are the type of individuals that I ran around with, that I had interactions with. Now, Salinas is not a very big city. It's located right off the Central Coast, the Salad Bowl business, the 831, and like I said, everyone might not know everyone, but if you're from Salinas, then you know. If you know, right? And I respect everything coming out of Salinas except one individual, but we'll leave him unnamed, and that just is what it is. But when I seen this video and I sat down and I watched it because it was brought to my attention, it was sent to me, I wanted to see what this man had to say. I wanted to see if he was going to be another one of Johnny Mitchell's bullshitters. Someone that goes on there and they claim the fame. Because look, this is what it is. When you have someone who's lived that life, who's been in and out of prison, they're going to know some things. But there's one thing that happens that not a lot of people trip out on, right? And I'm going to tell you, your interactions in prison and my interactions in prison are always going to be totally different. Okay, if you're from the southern side, Sur gang, right? If you're from the southern side and I'm from the northern side and we're both on the same yard, your time is going to be different than my time. Your politics are going to be different. The people that you're conversing with, the people that you're running with are going to be different. You might be in a prison where the Southerners have all the juice, right? Where they have all the good jobs, where they have some real righteous individuals that are making money on that yard. And then it might be hardship for me. I might get there. It's lockdown after lockdown. It's a bad situation. We can't get the good highlights, man. We're up shit creek. There's a few Northerners. And then it could be reversed. It could be a prison that the Southerners go to where the Northerners are the majority, because there are some of those up north, right? Like Salinas Valley or back in the days, or Soledad, right? And San Quentin, Tracy. And it's totally reversed. So your interactions with people, your time is always going to be different. One thing I've noticed about a lot of these guys who have been in prison that get on the internet and speak on it, they're never losers. They never lose. They win every fucking fight. Everybody they touch disintegrates. Every fucking fierro they pick up was the best made and the biggest one. And they just don't take L's. It's a fucking trip to sit here and listen to these guys tell their bullshit stories, right? It's just wild to hear some of the outlandish stories that come out of their mouths. So I listened to some of the stories from Spider, right? And I understand where he's coming from. I could tell right off the bat, he's lived that life. He was a part of something bigger than himself. Now, whether he was an actual made member of a prison organization, I'm not going to sit here and dispute that. I do know of a Spider from Salas that did have a little bit of status at some point in time, right? But whether or not he was allowed to just walk away is a different question, is a different story in itself, right? I don't know how the get down is when it comes to Salinas. Salinas guys, vatos from Salinas, Norteños get extra privileges. They get that extra fucking zuzu and wham wham. They're going to be able to function and do certain things that other Norteños are not, and that's just because of the notoriety of their city, man. That's the truth. Anytime a homeboy from Salas got somewhere, man, he got fucking love right from the guy. Was like, damn, the motherfucker ain't even cleared yet. He's already getting hugs, and I'm over there fucking getting mean mugs and shoulder shrugs. Vato's getting hugged. Oh, he's from Salas, bro. He's with the business. I don't, right? But I did. I understood because it had always been like that since my youth authority days. Since I was a YA baby, homies were fucking getting love. Garfield, Salas, Shorte, Spooky. They all had love, right? And I seen it, and I understood what it was, right? It's just the mystique of the city of Salas. And so this guy, Spiders, claims that he was able, the only Norteño I ever heard of, or member of any organization that I ever heard of, that was, up north, that was allowed to just walk away in good standings and no one trips and everyone shows respect. And it's just, hey, he's doing his thing and he's not being asked to do anything. Now, I'll say this. When you become something bigger than yourself or are part of something bigger than yourself, right? In the Norteño movement, whether it's a bro or a C, right? I'll say that without saying too much. That means you've fully dedicated your life to the cause. Okay, when you're just a northerner, man, you're just from a Norteño gang, right? Or a northern gang in California, and you're not fully dedicated. You're not full-fledged yet. You may think you are, but you got to read the fucking details in that contract, right? So when you're just a northerner, man, you could be someone who was just a gang member on the streets, who just functioned wearing that red paño, and then you get locked up. And then whatever you choose to do, you're going to politic no matter what, because that's just the way it is. Norteños are not deep, so everyone will be treated the same, even though that's not really the way it is, but that's the way it's supposed to be, right? So a lot of individualism and homeboy favoritism, but that I participated in it. I already know what it is. It's just how it is, right? It's life. In life, that's what it's going to be. But that doesn't mean you're fully dedicated to the cause. Now, you are, by household standards and rules and regulations, you are supposed to defend the casa to the fullest. You are supposed to be accounted for. If you're on that roster, you're supposed to stand up. You're supposed to show up and show out. Period. That's in prison in the California system no matter what, right? But you have not dedicated yourself to a political stance, right? To having that status. Now, once you are given that opportunity to get a jale within the COC, meaning the chain of command, to dedicate yourself more further into the game, now you're starting to have responsibilities. Now you're going to be looked at different. Now you're going to be respected just a little bit more different because you have status, you have a position. Not status, but a position, right? And other northerners that are just coming from the streets or just regular gang members are going to look at you like, damn, that's the big homie, even though you're not a big homie. They're going to look at it that way. I know because I did, and when I was a part of the COC, they did. That's just how it is, right? And I'm not here and saying, oh, it's very hard to become someone with a jale in a position, because it's not, man. If you're in the right place at the right time with a good head on your shoulders and you got good mouthpiece and you're willing to go the extra mile, you got that, right? And now things have changed since I was locked up, so I can't speak on the business now. I'm just talking about how it was when I was locked up. And I'm not going to sit here and play gangster that I won every fight and that I'm Superman and I'm Batman and I'm fucking Robin. I'm none of that, right? I was an individual trying to do my time and trying to establish for the Norteño cause. That's it. That's it. It didn't work out quite well for me. There was some things that was happening that I didn't care for, that they didn't care for. And at the end, we didn't care for it on that yard together with these. And that's that. This guy, Johnny Mitchell Spider, the mystique of Salas and him going and telling these stories, I just don't know if they're all true. It seems like he was fucking Yokozuna He just wanted everybody he fucked with, he smashed. He beat up everyone. He's that one gorilla against 100 convicts on the yard. That's him. He's the silverback, right? Because the way he told the story was classic. I enjoyed the interview actually, but the way he told his stories, he never took an elbow. He never took a macho man. He never lost. It was just win after win after win. And surprisingly, some of the things he said, I question. Now, I don't want to disrespect this man because I don't know this man. And I'm not going to call him a liar. I'm just going to say I question it. But who am I to question him? I wouldn't do that directly to him. If I needed to have a conversation, if it was that serious, which it isn't, we could have that conversation. But I'll tell you that I do question, just to myself, having been locked up and been in Norteno for so many years, and not just a northerner, but a Norteño, I question some of the things, like he says every yard he went to, it was on, war was on. Again, let me preface that with this. Every individual that does time in the California Department of Corrections, their time is going to be different from your time, right? Just like I said in the beginning, because I wanted to get to this part. He said that it was wartime. Every time he went, it was on and cracking, and Norteños were getting off with the business and this and that. Now, I ain't going to lie, man. The Norteños seem to always be at war with somebody, but not on every single yard, okay? Every yard that I've ever been to with Southerners, listen up close, Sur gang, every yard that I ever went to where there was Southerners, it was always a lot of mutual respect. It was always sopas passing. It was always, hey, homie, do you guys need anything? Buenos dias, buenas noches. Hey, despensa, homie, we're going to walk through right here. It was always a lot of fucking respect. When I was in Susanville on Lassen Yard, the 3-yard, my neighbors were on the mesa. Those that know what that is. Those that don't know, don't, right? They were two individuals that were in very, very high regard there at that place, right? Were they calling shots? That's up for you to decide, but they were in very high regard. They happened to be my vecinos, my neighbors. And we used to pass CDs back and forth. We used to converse through the walls. Like, it was nothing but respect. We understood. We stood on opposite sides of that podium. We understood that they were the opposition. We were the opposition. If the doors were cracking, it was wartime, then it was on time, right? But also at the same time, we understood that both us, them and us, right, were brown. And we're a raza. And we had a lot of the same backgrounds, and we shared the same culture and history. And guess what, man? There was a lot of conversing, a lot of conversations that were had that were they were good, man. And I ended up befriending these guys. I'm not going to say they were my friends and they wouldn't fucking put a knife in me. Of course they would. For their cause, yes, they would. And I would have done the same thing. But I could rely on them for a good conversation, for a whole lot of respect, and for a whole lot of professionalism. That's just how the Southsiders there, that whole place rocked, right? So anywhere I've ever been, it's always been respect. I've told you guys from the gate, there's not very many North and South melees and riots and fights I could talk about that I was involved in while incarcerated in prison. I could tell you in out-of-state prisons, yes, things were popping. I could tell you in the youth authority was definitely on and cracking. But as far as the California system, while I was incarcerated, chale. And nowadays, there's an end to hostility, so everything's a little bit more different. There are isolated incidences, I'm sure. There always will be. But it's just a lot more different than when I was doing time. According to fucking Spider from Salas, right? It was always wartime. And maybe that was the case wherever he was at. But I highly doubt that, right? I think this guy put a little bit of the salsa and crema on the tacos for whatever reason. I've noticed that every guy that Johnny Mitchell interviews always does that. Like I said, he interviews no losers. Not one person ever that Johnny Mitchell has interviewed, all these different shot callers that I never heard of, right? Period. Even if I heard of them, I know for sure they weren't that, right? That's a whole lot of shot callers, man. Where were all these motherfuckers at when I was doing time? Because I ain't never heard of them, right? But regardless of that, and the people are going to say, you're just jealous. I'm not jealous. I've just never heard of it. I never heard of a fucking guy that was part of a group, an organization from up north, get out of prison and be allowed to just walk away. Be allowed to just kick it with respect and parole and good standings. No, once you dedicate yourself to that cause, you are fully obligated and dedicated to go whenever. See, it's like the Italian mob back in the days. If you get sent for, if you get called back, you got to go. You're always part of something bigger than yourself. You have to show up. You know, there is no just, hey, I got a family now, bro. I'm going to just do my thing. Fuck that. You know, even though that's a good thing, and I wish it was like that, it's not. Whatever fucking reality show that about to watch and he believed he's Pauly D from Jersey Shore, that's not how it goes. Once you dedicate yourself to that entity, once you dedicate yourself to that organization, you will be accounted for. You can't turn your back on your brothers. You can't walk away from your canales. That's not how that goes. Even if you're trying to do good, you know, when you make that conscious decision to, hey, I'm no longer going to fucking look out for the homies. I'm no longer going to function and do what I got to do, what I dedicated myself to for the homies. Then you're looked at just like everyone else is, a degenerate, someone who is, you did a traitorous act. It's a cowardice act. You walked away. Okay. And it's not like you can be told by one individual, hey, you're good, bro. It doesn't work that way. There's a chain of command. You have to, if you're anybody and you know what it is, then you know that right there was kind of iffy. You know, again, he is from Salinas, man. He might have respect from the Nortenos and the Northerners out in that area. But definitely after doing the video with Johnny Mitchell, that's going to change. Because, first of all, anyone seasoned or part of that life, like he said he was, would never sit down with Johnny Mitchell and speak on the things that he spoke on and give the information he gave if he was still in good standings. You know, it's just, you see these Northerners like Rico Too Smooth and Lazy Boy from Sanho, man. No disrespect to any of these guys. GB, all these different big tone, these guys that give interviews on like No Jumper or whatever fucking platform they go, right? And I got to give them their respect. Because if you notice, when it comes to certain things, when Adam was trying to pull teeth on Rico and Lazy and get him to speak on certain situations, even that little young cat, Demon Time or whatever his name is out there from Washington, right? Him. When you get these guys, right? When you get these guys from Yakima, when you get these guys and you see the way they conduct themselves with professionalism and there's only certain things they'll speak on and certain things they won't, it's because they understand. They're laced up. They know what not to say. First of all, they don't want to get caught up, but even more so than that, they know what it is, right? But to see a guy who's part of a fucking organization, supposedly, literally fucking just telling all these war stories and speaking on shit he shouldn't, man. Right? Orale cholo one hand. I don't know what adios he's from, right? I just don't get it. And I'm not going to sit here and say that he wasn't part of that, because he may have been. Like I said, Salas is not that big, and I have heard of a spider from Salas. Okay? But to sit here and say that what he did on that interview was good and he's still good, I don't know. Now, there is some people out there that are saying that they have seen him have interaction with Gotos, man, from GT Digital. Shout out GT Digital, man. I bump their shit every day, right? And that he was somebody right? And if that's the case, cool, man. There's a lot of people that have had interaction with Gotos, man, that were somebody's. I know Gotos' business is on the streets making money, man, doing his promotions for his concerts, things like that, his artists. But, you know, when you're around certain gang members or certain people that were a part of that life, or you are known for having lived that life, yeah, you're going to come in contact with people. So I know him and Gotos' interaction, from what I heard, has been pretty smooth. Again, this guy, I don't know how Johnny Mitchell found him, for which rock he fucking grabbed him up under, but a lot of the things he said, in my estimation and just looking at it, there's a whole lot of caca going on there, man. It looks like the homie was trying, look, Sasuke, no disrespect, homie, but you was trying to fucking put some salsa on that shit, right? You know, he said one thing that I will agree with. Well, lightweight, right? He said that as a Norteno, him personally, he would rather fight 100 blacks on the yard than 3 Southsiders or 3 whites. You hear that? Not me, right? I'd rather not fight anybody. I'd rather just fucking go to my conjugal visit and tas, right? But this is what he'd rather do. But I understand it, because you know that them Southerners and them whites are all pieced up, strapped up, and they're going to put a gang of holes in you. So his ways of thinking was, them dudes, and this was real. That was real. They're going to come and they're going to fucking murk the shit out of you. They're going to be all strapped up, because that's the way the politics work. They're coming with pieces. Whereas in the brothers, man, everyone seems to think the brothers ain't going to pick up a piece. Yes, they fucking will. Okay? There's some brothers that will cut your whole eyelid off, right? They ain't playing. I'll tell you right now, either way, whether you fight 3 whites, 3 Southsiders, or 100 blacks, and believe me, all you got to do is watch World Star, and you'll see them brothers will knock your head off, right? The ending's going to be the same. Whether you want to be stabbed to death or beat to death is totally up to you, but death is imminent, right? That's just what's happening. So me, myself, I'd rather fight. I understand that it was just, what do you call it? How do they say that? A hypothetical situation that it's just, he was trying to say, I'd rather fight these guys because these guys are not known to use knives. No, because blacks don't have to use knives or choose to. They'll use these and they'll drag your fucking head across that yard, right? It doesn't mean they're punks and it doesn't mean they're not down. It's just the way that they get down. But don't mean that they won't pick up a knife, right? Now, as far as the Southsiders and whites, you already know that they have to, due to politics on certain yards, do what they have to do. So I kind of lightweight agree and I don't agree, man. I don't want to fight nobody, to tell you the truth, right? But I agree with what he's saying that, that these guys are basically going for the kill shot, whereas the brothers is just going to ragdoll you. But I know some brothers that'll do more than that. Anyways, it's up for you guys' interpretation. What you guys think about this guy? Never heard of him. Heard of a named Spider, that's Salas, but never heard he was part of the organization. Just heard he was a regular Norteno, the one that I knew, right? But again, I don't know this man. Never heard of him. Most guys that go on Johnny Mitchell, I think there's only like one that I've ever heard of, and that was Renegade Media. The rest of them, I never even fucking, I don't know where the fuck they came from. But again, man, no disrespect to this dude. I'm not hating because he claims to still be active. But remember, the internet, you can be anything you want to be. But to sit here and say I'm still in good standings, but I just do my thing, but they allow me to walk away, what planet is that on? With that being said, thumbs up or thumbs down. Heavy's going to be the head that wears the crown. I'm going to continue to strive, struggle, and strive for what I honestly and truly believe in, and that's the betterment of all people, man. It's up for you to interpret it what you want. From what I took from it was maybe that's a good dude right there. Maybe he's cool, but he's lying to you when he's telling you guys a lot of these stories, man. Or he's just putting too much on it. That's the truth. This video is sponsored by Vadio Liquors out there in Turlock, California. If you're in the area, stop into the Vadio, show some love. Also by Sticks and Stones Yard Service out there in AZ, man. Google them, get a hold of them, and have you looking straight. This is the gun. Bang, bang.